membership and cluster management organisation who act as the trade body for the digital tech sector here in Scotland. We have a membership of around 1,200 organisations, which is made up of kind of general tech organisations, in addition to our 3 clusters, which cover cyber, data and managed service provision. As an organisation, we are 25 years old this year. So we are celebrating in style. Thank you, Lucy. Celebrating in style. And I'd just like to take this opportunity to make you all aware that early bird ticket rates are currently available for our annual digital conference, ScotSoft 2025, which covers an array of technical and leadership talks across 6 streams throughout the day. This year, the conference is taking place at the EICC on the 25th of September. It's a bit of a back to the future theme, shall we say. So we'll be delighted to be joined by 2 keynotes, the first of which is Peter Parma, who will be taking a look at the last 25 years of what technology has looked like within Scotland. And our second keynote is the wonderful Katie Adamson, who will be taking a look at the future of technology over the kind of next 25 years. If that's not enough, our conference is followed by our annual Young Software Engineer of the Year Awards, and that's also held at the EICC, where we celebrate our upcoming digital talent. And this year, our after-dinner entertainment will be provided by the very talented singer Callum Beattie. Anyway, on to the matter at hand, and I am delighted to be joined today by our guest speaker, owner of Traction Industries, Lucy Batley. Lucy has founded and scaled digital design agencies and established Traction Industries, providing solutions incorporating artificial intelligence and emerging technologies to help drive innovation. Lucy is going to cover off some myth busting, the positives and negatives, the context of AI, strategic implementation, and the future. What's around the corner? Definitely a question that is on the tip of all of our tongues there. So, without further ado, Lucy, it's over to you. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you very much. What a brilliant introduction, Nicola. Can I just say I'm quite a new member to ScotlandIS. I think I joined in November last year, and it's been phenomenal. So I'm based in Newcastle, wanted to spread my wings a bit into Scotland, and no, it's been very fruitful so far. So highly recommended. Can I just check? You can see my screen. Is that all right? Also, no. Hang on, let me stop sharing and try again. Can other people see it?
I could see it, certainly.
I can't.
Yeah. You see that?
Yes.
That's doing my whole screen though now. Hang on, let me just shut everything down. Can you see that? You're going to see my whole screen, which is a bit of a pain, but is that all right, everyone?
Yeah.
The way you were sharing it first was actually better for me. That looks very tiny on the screen now.
Hang on.
No.
Hang on, I haven't done it yet. Right, can you see it now?
It's sharing with you your screen and your so a picture of you and your screen. So I don't know if there's an option to do just your slides.
Let me go out of this. Every 1 second. Brilliant. We were just talking about technology not functioning. Classic. Right. Let's start again. Share. I don't want to share the screen. I want to share that. And then if I go into presenting mode. Right. How are we doing with that?
There we go.
Everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, I should say these slides were not generated by AI. Young man, can you see that? Who said no? He's gone. He's disappeared. Right.
We can see it, so you're all good.
Sorry about that. It's because I'm a pesky Mac user, so Teams is not great. Macintosh and Microsoft still hate each other. Right. Good morning. As Nicholas introduced me, I won't talk too much about myself. So my background's designing and building bespoke technology, and we still do that. But we actually specialise in writing AI strategies for businesses. So we'll go in and do a series of workshops, find out what the problems are, and then align the technology to that. So we do still build and design bespoke databases, and we build and design bespoke APIs, which links the organisation software to the database, which I'll talk a little bit about. So as Nicholas said, I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Please ask questions, put them in the chat, and then hopefully we're going to have a good conversation at the end. So my first thing that I always say is that AI is not a magic wand. It is oops, here we're going. AI is not a magic wand. It's a tool, and like any tool, we have to, as humans, learn how to use it. It's not magic dust that just magically appears and fixes everything in your organization. You need very specific applications for very specific things. I know that it can be quite daunting, and there's something like 25,000 tools and plugins have come out in the last year. So sometimes it's difficult knowing where to start, which I can help with. Second myth busting is data is not magic dust. The way we define it is simply as information. So content, that can be text content, image content, audio, video, etc., etc. But kind of one of the most fundamental parts of AI is the data. And I always put this in because the thing that people are most scared about is losing their jobs and whether the robots are going to come and kill us. So the definition of artificial intelligence is when it has become more intelligent than a human. I would argue it already is, but I would also argue that it will never have consciousness. We don't even understand consciousness yet. So the thought of them becoming sentient is not going to happen in our lifetimes, hopefully. The risk probably is more about regulation, which I'll touch a little bit on. Yes, it is a difficult topic, and it's a complex topic, and it comes like anything else, like any tool. It's got great opportunities and also great risks. So before I start, I just want to do the way that I define AI, and there'll be different definitions for different organizations. The main thing is it's become a bit of a catch-all buzzword for anything that's non-human, i.e. code, and there's lots of different subsets of it. I like to simplify this. So the subset we specialize in is machine learning, which is where you're looking for patterns in the data, and then you analyze the patterns using the AI models. So that's machine learning, or ML. A subset of that is deep learning, which kind of does it what it says on the tin, where you get deeper insights from the data. On the other side of that, we've got something that's called natural language processing, NLP, and that's where computation and linguistics come together, and right in the middle are the large language models. So you might have heard of the term LLMs, or large language models, but they're the models that basically the AI that you'll be familiar with. So ChatGPT, that's what they're using, is they're called foundation models or language models. So that's the basis of them. I then like to simplify that even further and make a distinction between generative AI, which is the general purpose tools. So I'm sure a lot of you will be using, and I'm sure most of you will have heard of ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI. They are 49% owned by Microsoft. Which is really interesting. They're having a bit of a spat at the moment, and they might be falling out, but the same model basically runs Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT. So Microsoft Copilot is its own one. I find it very frustrating because there's lots of different products called Copilot, so it's a bit confusing. Google have launched their own version, which is called Gemini, which is not great, and there's a bit of controversy at the moment that I don't know if you've seen on Google, the AI summaries at the top are pretty much garbage. So there's a lot of debate about that at the moment. So that's generative AI. So that's where the AI models are using statistical analysis to guess and predict, a bit like predictive text. It'll guess what the next word is or what the next pixel is if it's an image. And it's generating new content. So the GPT bit of ChatGPT is generative pre-trained transformer. That's the transformers, the the super exciting bit that kind of revolutionized the market in 2017. On the other side of that is what we specialize in, which is data-driven insights, which is what was mentioned before, machine learning, where you're taking lots of data, you need to know what you're doing with it, and then you use the AI models to analyze that data and basically to inform decisions for your organization. So that's in a nutshell. It's much more complicated than that, so I've kind of simplified it down. So I mentioned natural language processing. There's a big shift at the moment, a move away from coding to natural language, so basically simple English. That's the direction of travel, and we've got a unique advantage. Maybe it's not if you've got a Scottish accent. My ChatGPT can't understand my Geordie accent and thinks I'm Welsh, but we need to learn how to write brilliant instructions in English. So the most of the models are made in America. There's a big one in France, but they've been programmed using the English language. So English is really important. And instead of having to code things anymore, you'll just have to give it plain English instructions. So as an example of that, I've been using a program called Midjourney, which is great for image generation. Literally about 3 weeks ago, ChatGPT launched their version called Image Generator, and it's pretty good. So as an example, I scanned this image or I found it off the internet. It's very blurry. I asked ChatGPT to make it clearer. It's pretty good. You'll notice that it's moved the man's angle slightly, but it's pretty good. It's pretty realistic. So it's taken something that was very grainy and made it very sharp. I've then instructed it to put a hat and shoes on him. I was messing about with it to test it. Interestingly, it's done what I've asked it to do. It's changed the image from black. I didn't ask it to do this. It's changed the image from black and white to colour. It's also changed the ethnicity of the man, which is quite important in terms of it's identifying. Sorry, we're identifying bias in the data set. So ChatGPT is trained off everything of the internet on the internet. So there's biases and negative things in the internet, and it's picking up that, which is what we call hallucinations. But yes, basically, the direction of travel is giving very clear, unambiguous instructions in English, basically. So we need to learn how to communicate better. Should be a good thing for everyone. So how do we apply design thinking to artificial intelligence? So as I said, we specialize in machine learning. However, what we tend to do is we can build bespoke software, but we tend not to. We'll go into an organization, I don't know if you can see my cursor, and we'll map out all of their systems. So most companies have got multiple bits of software, multiple different systems and intranets, etc. We'll map all of that out, and then we build what we call APIs, which is basically a bridge between the software and the data platform. And then we suck the information or the data out of those bits of software. I call them data platform. I call them data vacuum cleaners. The important bit is how you design and build the data platform. So we design these in a way that will gather the information in the right order, if that makes sense. And once you've got all the information, we then use that to train the AI models. And this is something that took me quite a while to get my head around. You have to train the models. You have to keep going back and saying, that's not quite right. Please change this or categorize this again. So, for example, we did a marine project last year. We were categorizing hazardous waste for HMRC. And basically, we got the AI model to identify grey powder, white powder, black powder. HMRC don't care that it's different types of powder. They just care that it's hazardous. So we keep going back and training the models to identify different types of hazardous material and categorize them and label them. So that's kind of the data is the clever bit. Core benefits of AI, I'm sure you're from lots of different backgrounds, but kind of from my point of view, the main thing's saving time. It's, as I said before, it's not a magic wand. It'll speed up your automate processes that are mundane and boring. So, for example, I use it a lot for writing proposal documents, which I hate doing. It's not a magic button. I just say, write me a proposal and win me this contract. I have to keep going backwards and forwards and giving it instructions, but it it'll automate it and speed up the time from, say, for example, it might take me 4 hours to write a proposal document. It would reduce that down to about 30 or 40 minutes. So that's kind of the key bit of it. We joke in industry that it's automated intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. I've just mentioned data-driven insights. The bit about that is it should be about informing decisions for your organization. Scalability is really important, especially now we're starting to see AI agents. So you can think of it, going back to my diagram before, as Lego bricks, where you can, once you've got the models in place and you've started training them, that you can start building bespoke bits of software on top of that. And most importantly, particularly for small businesses, AI is democratized technology in one sense that a small team in Newcastle of 2 or 3 people can do the same things with the technology that 100 people in San Francisco can do. So if you're clever with it and you're smart with it and you use your data effectively, you can gain a competitive advantage. So the bit people always want to know about is what's happening next. This year is the year of AI autonomous agents. So I call them butlers. It's basically where it's multimodal. So one of the problems at the moment is I have 53,000 different apps on my telephone. The AI agents, and this is what we're predicting, it's not out yet. These are all very new. They were launched in November, December time, and they're still in testing phase. We're literally just starting to use them. However, the direction of travel, we expect Apple, they had a big launch yesterday, the next version of the Apple iPhone will have an autonomous agent in it, where basically it'll put a mesh over all of your applications, and instead of going into different things in the morning, you will literally open your phone and say, hello Siri, what's my calendar like today? Oh, you've got a webinar at 11 o'clock with ScotlandIS. Nicola's running a bit late, and do you want me to telephone her and email her? And don't forget your umbrella if you go out, because it's going to rain later on. So it'll basically create a mesh, a bit like the diagram I've just shown you, and it'll just take different data that's personalized to you. So really exciting, but also it's a lot of privacy risks in terms of giving access to people's data. So this is the AI agent. So basically, I won't go into massive detail about this. We're just starting to experiment with these. They're really, really new. But basically what you do is they're called AI agents. It's linking up all the different aspects of your workflow, so your work processes. So for example, I'll link all of these up. This is kind of an overview design of it. So I get a notification that an invoice is being paid, a deposit invoice is being paid. That'll trigger a switch, which will create an email message using ChatGPT or another model. It'll then all get processed by the AI agent, which is the tools agent, and it'll automatically send an email to my client saying, thanks very much for paying your first invoice. We're ready to have a meeting with you, and it will go in and organize diaries. So it basically becomes like a personal assistant. This is a very simplified version. As you can see, there's going to be lots and lots of different applications for this. It's going to be really exciting. One thing I will say is that the AI agents are still hallucinating. So you need to be very, very careful with your sensitive data, particularly if you're linking up to things like invoicing and in your finances. So get a professional to do it would be my advice. You can do it yourselves, but it's not just the creating the process, it's making sure that it interacts with all of your systems in your organization. So how do we prepare in simple terms? So I mentioned data. First thing we always look at is people's data. So I get a lot of companies coming to me and saying, can you come and do some magic AI with this? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do with it? Well, I don't know. And the second question is always, have you got any data? Yes, Lucy, I've got loads of data. And then they get a industrial Rolodex out of the bottom of the drawer. You've got to have the right data, and it's got to be organized in the right way. So we would go in and audit the data. We do use AI tools to do this, but we basically do a recce and audit all of the data, make sure it's all in the right place. So for example, we did a big project last year, and it took us 6 months to migrate all of the company's data into one place. So they had 65 years worth of historic data. Some of it was in the cloud, some of it was on-prem servers, some of it was on different hard drives. And before we could do anything with it, we had to get it all in one place. Then we had to make sure that a lot of it wasn't duplicated. A lot of it was duplicated. So we eliminated the duplication and then made sure that it was all organized and ordered in the way that was beneficial for the business. And I love this slide. Data is completely meaningless unless it tells a story. So without a story, it's just numbers and letters and words, basically. So yeah, you need to know what you're doing with your data. It's what problem are you trying to solve first, and then what data have you got? So which leads on nicely. Whenever this is the approach that we take when we're writing AI strategies for companies, we go in and the first thing I say is forget about the technology. Given the right budget, you can pretty much do anything you want. What problems are you trying to solve, and most importantly, what human problems are you trying to solve? So take the AI and the technology off the table, and importantly, AI is not always the best option. It shouldn't be, let's use AI just because it's the shiny new toy that everyone's talking about. Sometimes it's much easier and quicker and cheaper to do something in an Excel spreadsheet, for example. So we go in and use design thinking methodologies to identify problems with the organizations. I'm a massive proponent of AI collaboration, AI human collaboration, but also collaboration between disparate teams. So my prediction is that traditional hierarchical business models, and we're already starting to see this, will flatten out and workloads will become more project-based. So it's essential that humans start collaborating, working better together. So that might mean that you've got someone from the HR department, the legal department, working with the digital department and the designers and an ethics person and a philosopher, etc., etc., etc. The automation is going to mean that we've got more time on our hands, and it gives us more time to do strategic thinking. And the best way to do strategic thinking and problem solving is to get different perspectives on it and get different people around the room. Also, if you're implementing AI and that's new, make sure that you bring your workforce with you. Make sure that you've got a really stringent AI policy in place. We've heard lots of examples of people accidentally putting sensitive information into ChatGPT. Big example of a woman, I think it was in Holland, put 20,000 sensitive patient records into an AI model, not maliciously. She just wanted to do some data analysis on it, didn't realise that that was then basically going into the public pot to train the model, which is obviously a high risk in terms of security. And she didn't get sacked because the company didn't have an AI policy to account for the new technology that was out. So collaboration between humans is essential. Bring your workforce with you, and also, like I keep saying, AI is a tool and it shouldn't replace it. I was thinking about this morning. My recommendation is get AI to do 80% of the work, and then you've got always have an expert on top of that, authorizing it and fact checking it and making sure that it's appropriate to your brand and to your tone of voice if it's writing, for example. At the moment, there's a big impact on the environment. So 5-minute search on Google uses the equivalent of boiling a kettle. A search on ChatGPT uses half a litre of water. Everyone thinks the cloud is this ephemeral floating thing in the sky. It's not. They're huge data centres, predominantly in Scotland, I might add, because it's nice and cool up there. So this is the compute, which is the power that's required. So these models need a massive amount of compute power to run them because they're huge. And they need these huge data centres. So these are all racks and racks of servers, and they get very hot. So they need lots of water to cool them down. So really, really bad for the environment at the moment. My prediction is that we hopefully will be using AI to help us come up with new ways of energy and new ways of cooling system. We're already starting to see that happen, in terms of they're discovering new ways of creating lithium batteries, which will be dead exciting. But at the moment, we've got an infrastructure. We're running out of energy, and the US is currently looking to nuclear industry in order to power these. And as I mentioned before, with great power comes great responsibility. These are not to be used lightly. I've talked about the AI policies, but you also need to think about ethics. So classic example of this to demonstrate it. So Gemini is Google's equivalent of ChatGPT. They were in such a desperate hurry to launch it to compete with ChatGPT last year that they made a big blunder. So basically, when you're programming the AI models, they've got what they're called parameters, and they're literally called temperatures, so you can turn them up and down, you can turn the dials up and down. So for example, if you're writing an email, you can have it more formal, less formal, more creative, less creative. Gemini, in their wisdom, turned the dials up to maximum wokeness, and accidentally made the AI biased against white people. So we ended up getting black Nazis, Asian female popes, etc., etc. It was a huge scandal. They had to pull it down in about 72 hours, and it wiped $70 billion off Alphabet, who own Google's bottom line. So big gaffe. Yes, you might argue that $70 billion is a drop in the ocean for something like Google, but you need to be aware that if you're training the data on if you're training the model on biased data, the outputs that you're going to get is going to be biased. So you need to be really careful. Massive implications for HR, as an example, when you're doing things like job recruitment ads. Education is a two-way street. You've got to learn how to talk to the AI models. Traditional software, you would do something like in Photoshop, you would do something, program it, and it would create an image, or you do something in Microsoft Word and you get a report. AI is different, so similar to us training the models. If you're using a generative AI like ChatGPT or Copilot, you have to keep training it and go back saying that's not quite right, can you do it slightly differently, the target audience is slightly different, be very specific with it. The AI is also learning off us, so all the data you're putting into the AI models, unless you've got an enterprise model which is black boxed, is going into the data pot to help train further iterations of the models. But there's pros and cons for that. So there's a data privacy issue, but also it means that over a period of time, the AI models start to become very personalized to the way that you work. So I was an early adopter. I've been using ChatGPT for 2.5 years. I've got at the point now where it understands everything about the way I work. It actually makes suggestions to me. It totally understands my tone of voice. I use it for literally absolutely everything. But education is very much a two-way street. And the best thing I can tell you, and I've mentioned it before, is get very good at writing English. So it kind of sums it up here. This is the interface with ChatGPT, which is very simple. Ask anything. We need to get better at asking really good questions and writing really good instructions. You see on the bottom here, you can now also search the web. I did a post last week about the demise of Google. I think the way that we search for things on the internet is going to dramatically change. There's already research to say that Google's numbers are dropping and people are using ChatGPT to search for things, because instead of getting pushed adverts, for example, if I want to buy a camera, it'll start asking me questions about what's your budget, what do you want it for, bird watching, whatever, and then it'll scour the internet and it'll make recommendations for you. So it'll almost give you a notebook for it. You can also do deep research, which gets into kind of scientific evidence, which is brilliant. Fact check. It still makes mistakes because it's using statistic analysis. It's just guesswork. And you can also code on it as well. You do need to authenticate the code and make sure it's fit for purpose. So while it's a tool, this leads me onto my last slide, while it's a tool, you need to make sure that you're using it in an ethical, responsible manner, but also making sure that your data is right. And the joke that I always say is a tool can be used for good things and bad things. So you can either become an axe-wielding homicidal maniac, or you can use it to chop wood, to make a fire, to make your tea. So like any other tool, like an axe, the humans need to learn how to use it. So my advice is go away and play with it, and just keep going back and asking questions. If you want a specific AI tool to do something specific for finances or whatever, ask ChatGPT. People just say, I want a tool to do this, can you recommend one? And it'll do it for you. I get criticized quite often for being a reseller for ChatGPT. I'm not, but it's the best model that I've tested, and also it's the first to market, so they're way ahead of everybody else in terms of technology. And I will say that technology is like dog years, and AI is like dog years times 100. So just to finish up, 5 first steps for digital transformation. If you're thinking of introducing AI into your organization, always have strategy over tech. Start with a clear purpose. What's your end goal? What's your business objectives? What problems are you what human problems are you trying to solve? And how can technology and your data, importantly, help you to achieve those goals? Put very strict governance guidelines in place. If you haven't got an AI policy, make sure you get one. If you think your staff aren't using AI, they are. They'll be using it on their personal computers. It is going to become mainstream, and it's going to get the point of what we call a general technology. So it'll be the equivalent of using a calculator. I wouldn't ask you to do a very complicated maths problem without using a calculator. And within 12 to 24 months, 36 months, these are going to be mainstream tools that everybody's going to use. So once everyone's using the same tools, how do you get the competitive edge over them? Start as early as possible and become an early adopter. Data-driven insights is the most important bit from my concern. So like I said, from the distinction at the beginning, you've got generic tools, general tools, but also how can you use your data to maximum effect? In small wins, test in isolation. Don't try and solve everything all at once. Pick a project, for example, your CRM, sandbox it. That means that you've walled the data so it can't go out of the office, and do some testing. And once you get comfortable with it, you can then expand it a bit, get a bit like Lego blocks. And most importantly, bring your human workforce with you. People are very nervous about jobs. And I always say that we say roles will go rather than jobs will go. So some roles will go and some new roles will come up. Cybersecurity didn't exist 20 years ago, and it's now a multi-billion-dollar industry. There was a report a couple of weeks ago about the World Economic Forum saying that they're predicting something like 90 million jobs are going to get taken over by AI, but 170 million new jobs are going to happen. So positives and negatives, hopefully that was a quick whistle-stop tour. Just in case, always be polite, say please and thank you. There's some evidence that if you're polite and ask nicely, the AI will respond better. But also remember that every time you say thank you and please and thank you, it has to respond to you, so you're using more energy. So once you've got where you're going to, please stop. Right. On that note, I'm going to stop sharing and hopefully we can get some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lucy. That was brilliant. So we do already have a couple of questions in the chat. And as a reminder to everybody else, if you do have any questions at all for Lucy, then if you drop them into the chat box, I will facilitate those from here. So yeah, good few questions to kind of get us going. First up, a kind of comment with a question attached to it. So I'm seeing multiple platforms coming onto the market. How do I know which one will best fit the type of applications and assistance I am looking for?
Yeah, that's really hard. Like I said, there's 25,000 tools. A lot of at the moment we're in this, like everything's new and shiny. Everyone wants to be the next ChatGPT. I think we're going to see a lot of mergers and acquisitions or copying. So it's very similar to when telephones launch new features, all the other telephone companies just copy them. ChatGPT are guilty of this. I do get it. And I get this question all the time. My response is, like anything else, do a bit of research, ask ChatGPT, but be very specific. Like somebody came to me and said, have you got a tool for my business? And I was like, yeah, what do you want it to do? Everything. Okay, no, won't do that. I want it to make a podcast out of my text notes or whatever. So be very, very specific about it. Yeah, ask ChatGPT. Sorry, I meant to mention as well, get the paid version if you can afford it. It's about $20 a month. The outputs are way better than the free one. You can just experiment and play with the free one, but get the paid one.
If you're looking for it to do anything, that's excellent. Thank you, Lucy. So obviously, some of the stuff that you talked about there was around kind of data and data quality, and organisations ensuring that they have good data quality before they start looking to kind of implement AI properly within their organisations. One of the challenges for our smaller organisations, our kind of SMEs as well, can be that that's obviously quite time consuming. So do you recommend any tools, or are there any frameworks that SMEs could, adopt quite quickly today that would help to audit and improve their data quality?
No, Off the top of my head, no, because the reason I emphasize data is that it is a massive problem, not just for small businesses.
For every business, yeah.
In fact, it's worse for bigger businesses, because you can imagine huge companies have got different departments all over the world using different systems, and the data's all over the place. My recommendation is start from the ground up. So we did this with the project that I mentioned that took 6 months to migrate all the information. Basically, what we did is we drew a line in. We basically had a turn on date. So we literally started from the ground up and started putting new data into it. So that's why it's important about doing that strategic planning bit of what do you want to do with the actual data. And then my recommendation would be start from scratch. If you start trying to go through historic data and you forget how much you've got, like a simple example, I've got 20,000 photographs on my phone, times it by the 20 people who are on this webinar. It's massive amounts of data. So what? The other question is, so what? I've got 65 years worth of historical data. I don't want to use a proposal from 1976. I wanted to work on this. There's going to be a shift from having, the original theory was that the more data you put in it, the better the quality of the output. There's a tipping point with that, and I think we're going to see a shift to much smaller, cheaper models. At the moment it's still cost prohibitive, but it'll be using a very specific amount of customer data, whatever that might be, and making it bespoke to the organization. That's what I think is going to happen. So again, the data is really important, but think about what you're trying to achieve with it. What's your pain points? What do you hate doing? Writing emails, writing proposals, etc., etc.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Lucy. A couple of other questions here. So next one is to what extent and at what levels should humans remain meaningfully involved in knowledge creation as AI systems become more capable and more autonomous?
Oh, that's a good question. There should always be a human in the loop for checking. So, for example, there's some brilliant stuff coming out with scanning for cancers. I read an article they can now predict breast cancer 5 years before, because what AI is good for is doing things that is beyond human capability. So I would argue that because it's got all of the knowledge off the internet, and there's a big copyright issue about this, it scraped all the literary books and it's got everything off Wikipedia. I would argue that it's already got that, it's got the biggest data set in the world. So how can you make more of that? It's more about how do we use AI as a tool to make us more knowledgeable and make us more, I'm convinced I'm more intelligent than I was 2 years ago, but that's because I've trained myself to use it in the most effective way. So it's more, read out the question again. That's a really interesting question. I like that.
So it says, to what extent and at what levels should humans remain meaningfully involved in knowledge creation as AI systems become more capable and more autonomous?
I think knowledge creation, the AI will be able to generate the knowledge and the information. It's about it's more about that human interaction and what you do with it. It's got to be about AI and human interaction. It's got to be, and there should always be a human in the loop. And like I keep saying, it's a tool. It's how do you use that tool to maximum effect.
Yeah. No, excellent. Thank you. So another question here.
Good question. A good question. I like that one.
It was a good question. Next question up is around kind of policies. So it says you talk about policies, but how do you enforce a policy?
That's a good question as well, because nobody ever reads the policy, and it makes me laugh that everyone complains about Facebook stealing your data, and it's like, if you read the T's and C's, it'll say that everything you give to it tells you. So training, just do really simple training. You can do it quite quickly. Just get all your staff in one room, or it's less about you've got to have the policy in place, but it's definitely there's a comms thing there. So that's a really good question as well. Nobody ever reads the policy. The best way we found it, and I'm giving away all my state secrets here, is you use case studies, use examples. Which is why I use the Google one. It's a brilliant one. It's extreme, but it's like, this is what happens if you do it wrong. Another really good example was a guy, I think it was Panasonic, put the patented source code for a product, and he got sacked for it. So it's about making people understand that it's pros and cons, and that's a communication issue. Definitely do a bit of training. You wouldn't half an hour with your staff. That's all you need. Get them talking about it. There's the thing that, to go back to the collaboration bit, which I'm really pushing. Give your staff time to. People are savvy, they'll go and play with it. And if you set a safe space for them to talk about it, as soon as you start talking about AI, somebody will go, I use it to do this and and start having like little mini workshops about it. That's the way I would approach it if you're a small business.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Lucy. Any other, here we go, a big long one here. So hi, Lucy, really enjoying the session. Thank you. Okay, so I've got the draft strategy mapped out and I know what I want to achieve. Build an AI assistant to support new heat pump engineers with things like fault finding and repair guidance whilst on the job. Help them with their learning and fix problems faster, essentially. But on the tech side, it's hard to know where to start. Are there specific types of AI developers I should be looking for, or is everyone still figuring it out as we go?
Good question. That's a really good question as well. So be very careful. There's a lot of people saying that they're AI specialists and they're not. And it is, I've tried to simplify it there to demystify it, but when you start getting into the nitty gritty of it, the models are very complicated. So for example, when we've got the database, we've had to use 2 different models for the same. So there's dozens of these models as well, and that they come with a price because you have to buy tokens of them. So it's the equivalent of paying for website hosting, and they've all got different price levels, and that price will drop. But at the moment, they're currently quite expensive. But we use different models for different things. So we'll use one model for stats-based problems, and we'll use another model for language-based problems, so English-based problems. There's quite, it sounds like what the person's asking for is a chatbot, which you need to be quite careful with. My advice would be go and see an expert and get some advice about it. Off the top of my head, I can't give you an answer. I'll have to go and do a bit of research about that. But this is what I'm saying. There's not kind of a magic wand that'll fix everything. Because that's like specifically what you're trying to do. It does sound like a chatbot, and there's loads of people doing chatbots. Be very careful when you're doing chatbots, because everyone wants a chatbot because it takes away the customer service bit. It's great up to a certain point, but we know as humans how frustrating it is if you can't get the right answer and you know that you're talking to a human. The best example I've seen of chatbots is Octopus Energy. They deployed it really quickly in about 14 weeks. It didn't cost 16 weeks, didn't cost that much money. They got an Innovate UK grant. What they did do is get the tone of voice really spot on, because they really understood the customers. And also one of the ones that we've developed, we've got a cut-off point, so it'll only answer questions so far, and then it'll refer you to a human. Yeah, excellent. So bit of a follow-up to kind of Amy's questions and comments there. So thanks. Interesting talk through. How would you define an AI specialist? Ooh, what you want to be looking for is this is really hard at the moment because everyone's saying that they're AI specialists. What we work with are computer scientists, but data analysts. So machine learning specialists. So I would look for people that are doing machine learning, because they'll really understand the mechanics of it. And like quite a lot of companies will just they'll have developed some little plug-in tool that you can do yourselves. You can build your own mini tools with ChatGPT. It's called GPT Builder. So think of GPT as a chatbot. And you can go in and feed so going back to the plumbing one, you can feed all of your plumbing information into it. You need the enterprise model though, because you're giving away your USP and your data if you're doing that. But you can upload loads of documents and train it to understand your particular way, and you can create a chatbot. The complication then becomes that it's part of ChatGPT. So how do you get it onto your website? So this is why you need a techie. There's loads of technical companies, but I would test them and ask them what sort of computer science degrees they've got, or and look up for people who specialize in machine learning. Unfortunately, there's not that many of them, and they're very sought after. But there's going to be the thing that's going to start popping up loads is AI agents. There's going to be loads of agents doing AI agents, which will be. I want to rebrand all of this. It's such a blooming tongue twister to say it all.
It is indeed, and like you touched on there, AI covers so many different things, but we're lumping everything into one, which just causes further confusion for anybody. So again, a bit of a kind of follow up to the thread that's kind of ongoing here. Any recommendations for training organisations to move towards becoming an AI kind of specialist? So anything that organisations can do to help kind of meet that AI specialist demand?
What, become AI specialists?
Yeah.
Ooh. Be very cautious. You need to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Particularly with the ethics and the regulations bit. We've got a big problem at the moment that there's no UK regulations. So the US are just it's a Wild West anyway. But
it's a Wild West,
and all the Elon Musk and Donald Trump's like pantomime at the minute. But they've made a very clear stance of saying we are innovation first. We want America to be the front and center as everything else. We don't give a shit. Sorry for my swearing. We don't give a monkeys about regulations. They don't give a monkeys about deep fakes. Trump launched his own deep fakes. Right on the other side of the pendulum is the EU AI Act, which is really strict, and it's now getting criticised because that is inhibiting innovation. Interestingly, we thought the UK were going to follow suit with the EU AI Act, and they haven't. Because of all the Donald Trump's tax tariffs, they've aligned with America. So there is no UK regulations at the minute. The DBT, the Department of Business Trade, said they might make one by the end of the year. And I think that's really bad, and I think companies are going to come a cropper. There's going to be, I keep saying this, that there's going to be some sort of Grenfell Tower disaster, not necessarily a cybersecurity attack. There'll be something catastrophic will happen, and they'll just clamp down on it and regulate it like nuclear or pharmaceutical. Be very cautious about that. It is very, very complicated. I don't profess to be a techie, but I understand the I call them the T-file heads, the computer scientists that I'm talking about. The data analysts I've worked with techies for years. The data analysts are another level in terms of their giant brains. It is very, very, very complicated, and you need to know what you're talking about. So tread with caution would be my answer to that.
Thanks, Lucy. So another question here. Do you see AI as the start of a major move away from the keyboard as the method of interface?
Yes. Yes, in the short answer. So interestingly, I keep joking that it's not very good at accents at the moment. I'm talking specifically about ChatGPT because it was trained on Reddit users, which are basically middle sort of 35-year-old white American men, which is why it's terrible at British humour. So that again, that's the bias of how it's trained. But some people much prefer speaking into it. Can't understand me, thinks I'm Welsh. But I know a lot of people, and particularly the younger generation, without sounding like a granny, prefer to talk into it. Sorry, there's a helicopter. There's the tremendous helicopter going past. I prefer to type into it because I consciously think about what I'm typing while I'm typing it to give it the instructions. But yeah, good question. Apple, the original designer, Johnny Ive, who trained in Newcastle, Sir Johnny Ive, sorry, who designed the original iPhone, has just been, his company's been bought out by Sam Altman, who owns ChatGPT, for $6.5 billion. And they're about to launch something, and we don't know what it is. And I think it's going to be some sort of the predictions that it's a wearable, but there's a couple of wearables. So like an AI pin that records all of your meetings and everything, gives you a thing. A couple of those came out last year. There was one called Rabbit, absolutely flopped. So, and people don't want another watch and a pin and a iPhone and 53 iPhones and your headphones, etc. I think it'll be some sort of Alexa style thing that'll sit on your desk. So yeah, I think it'll be a choice thing. Some people prefer audio and some people prefer keyboards like I do. But yeah, I think we're going to move away from you'll just be, hello Siri, can you make me a cup of tea? Can't do that yet, but I can. Do you remember the tea makers from the 1970s? We should bring those back.
So another question just popped up here. So data is key to any successful AI application, but this is not a technology play, and most use cases fail because companies does not know itself and doesn't have clean data. So more of a comment, I guess, rather than anything else, but
absolutely
spot on there.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. We say crap data in, crap data out. And it is a massive problem. And this is what I was saying about small companies have got a strategic advantage because the big companies like the big four delights of the world, they can't move quick enough because they're such huge multi-billion-dollar beasts that they can't implement the technology as quick as the smaller companies. But yeah, data is a massive. Just think, like as I said before, the number of photos I've got on my phone. Think about we had my old company, we got up to 30 staff, and I calculated once we had 37 different bits of software. That's one tiny little company. So yeah, good comment.
Wonderful, excellent. So we are approaching the end of our webinar. If there are any final questions for Lucy, now is the time to get them into the chat box so we can get them asked for you. If not, we will move to kind of wrap things up and possibly give people 5 minutes back in their diary, which I'm sure would be appreciated by everybody. So any last minute questions for Lucy, if you could pop them into the chat box for us just now. But if not, Lucy, I'm sure we'll be more than happy to answer any follow-up questions as well. So if anybody would like introductions made to Lucy after the session is over, then please do reach out and we will facilitate that for you. Already starting to see some thanks coming through in the chat here, Lucy, as well. So on behalf of ScotlandIS and everybody who's attended today, thank you very much for the session. Really useful. I think for me, I really like that framing of the we'll lose roles, not jobs, because I think that helps to remove some of the scaremongering that's kind of out there and helps people to embrace our AI journey rather than fear what that journey kind of looks like for us all. So thank you very much. Like I say, lots of thank yous coming through here. As a reminder, everybody, the session has been recorded, so we will share that with you all once the session is live up on our kind of YouTube channel. And again, if anybody has any follow-up questions at all or would like an introduction made to Lucy, then drop us a note and we shall facilitate that for you. But thank you all for joining us today, and a huge thank you, Lucy, for the presentation. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.